yet again. Tommy's performances and physical look started to diminish in just a short time period of 12 months. The lifestyle he had been living outside of the ring had clearly taken its toll on his health. The effects this had on him in the ring was devastating, as he went on to lose in some of the most shocking one-sided losses of his career.
I'm not interested in winning them all. I just want to win one.
After the end had appeared to be near, Don King stepped in with an offer he couldn't refuse.
Tommy was still a name, and Don King arranged a multi-million-dollar payday for Tommy on a 3-fight deal.
Okay, listen to this number.
I just signed a $38.5 million contract.
$38.5 million contract for 3 fights. One of them being Mike Tyson.
Oh my God.
Win or lose, Tommy would be set for life after his next match. Only this time, he didn't even make it to the ring.
With the first fight against journeyman Arthur Weathers, an older-looking Morrison was ready to go. But with only a few days leading up to the fight, a bizarre announcement was made. For reasons people couldn't work out, Tommy had refused to give a blood test to the Nevada Commission.
The first fight of $38.5 million.
Process for all fighters. His reasons for avoiding the test didn't add up, using excuses such as being scared of needles. But such a weak excuse was going to get him nowhere in this case, and eventually he had no choice but to give one, otherwise he'd be removed of his license. But the truth soon came out.
I'd ask that you no longer see me as a role model, but see me as an individual that had the opportunity to be a role model and blew it.
He looks like Wade Boggs.
Blew it with irresponsible, irrational, immature decisions. A decision that one day could cost me my life. Confirmed that I have tested positive for that virus.
Nevada's Athletic Commission yanked his license, and every major commission in the country followed suit.
So he tests positive for HIV. Now, think about the circumstances, though. This is where we start questioning the possible grift. Why was he hesitant to give the blood test if he wasn't aware of the HIV diagnosis? Yeah.
His career wasn't just over.
No?
It was erased.
But suspicions arise that Morrison had been hiding this for a while, and tests should have been taken years prior. Crazy enough, this turned out to be true when Morrison had been medically diagnosed as HIV positive way back in 1989.
You hear that? He admits to having been tested positive for HIV 6 years earlier.
Can't that land you in jail? I'm actually being serious.
I think it can now. I don't know that there were laws in place back then.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He says that, and while we have no reason to think he would make that up, because that's a terrible thing to say about yourself, we still don't have any proof of it. So, jury's out as to whether or not it's true, but it definitely does seem like he knew when he refused to take the blood test, right?
Yeah, and also, excuse my ignorance, but is it AZT was the medication for that? Was that readily available in 89 to maintain that kind of shape?
That's a good question. I don't know. I do not know. Yeah, that's a good one. But as we go on, I think your question might be answered.
Okay, because
about medication. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought he was going to go from I would expect to go from Rocky to Philadelphia right away. But I could be wrong. But I don't know. That's the first thing that hit me.
But I wouldn't be surprised because, look, I'm not a doctor, but from what we know, you can't carry on 60 pounds of muscle if you got AIDS.
Yeah, that's exactly my point.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know the science behind it either. So it's just as a layman, It's not typical as far as I understand. But let's keep watching.
I mean, we have feline HIV, so that's something different than humans. So, you know,
you get that from. You actually do get that from like sharing a drink.
Years before the truth came out. Even the counselor who had been helping him during rehab had said he was told by Morrison that he had tested positive back in 1989. There still are many claims out there as of today that has so-called Morrison admits to testing positive earlier on. But although these are just claims, the amount of evidence stacked up shows that these are likely all to be true from what we've learned so far.
So that's the thing. We can't prove that happened, but everything that he did definitely kind of does suggest that he knew before that fight.
That's insane.
And you're right. Yeah, you can in today's, in today's world. Right. Yeah, you can go to jail for that. It's fucking crazy. And I've heard that in prison, if you have HIV or AIDS, that some scores get settled by them like throwing some jizz into your food or, doing shit to try to get somebody else HIV. Right. and that is a crime in itself. Like there's a written crime for trying to spread HIV intentionally. And it's just, it's crazy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure throwing jizz in food is another crime to begin with. It's like,
yeah, but also,
it's a happy meal. It's a happy meal of crimes. That's the toy.
But there is a law in the books that says, attempting to spread, however it's titled, attempting to spread a deadly disease intentionally. And
I don't know if it's I think it's a state to state thing, but I know at least it is. I know it's happened in New York, but I'm not saying it's just a New York law. But I know if you knowingly have it and you sleep with somebody unprotected and they get it, you can go to jail for that.
And there are civil, and there are also civil laws that protect people who knowingly spread stuff that's not as lethal as HIV. I studied a case in law school about a woman who sued a guy who gave her herpes. It's just, scary. So imagine engaging in a sport where you are actively bleeding.
Yeah, and just Jesus.
Insane, right?
After word got out, Tommy's life was never the same. With friends forgetting him and a hometown that once supported him completely abandoning him as their own, life was surely grim for the star of boxing.
He was banned from the sport of boxing. He was just 27 years old.
Can you hear that song?
Yeah, I'm slowly doing my head like Night at the Roxbury.
It took me like a couple of listens. I was like, is that?
Yeah, I picked up on it right away.
Literally, I was like, no. Wow. That's
God.
Weird.
Unable to earn a living from fighting, he ultimately ended up convicted of drink driving offenses and drug possession.
He spiraled into depression and drug use.
Supposedly, he claims that he never did drugs before the HIV diagnosis. Apparently, just alcohol was his thing.
Right.
And he claims that he just got into a bad place and started trying drugs because he thought he was going to die, and they just fuck up his life.
Served 14 months of a 10-year sentence.
It's like when you're going to get gastric bypass, and fuck it, are y'all the McDonald's? They're going to fucking staple this shit anyway.
Yeah.
It's just
But it's funny. But what's crazy about this story is that something it avoided for so long and finally gives into takes over his life.
Upon release, Tommy turned to a series of cosmetic surgeries, bicep implants, and chest implants.
After he turned HIV positive, he was doing all kinds of crazy drugs, and he got pec implants, and they were preposterous.
For a brief moment, it looked like he was facing his demons head on. He even linked up with Magic Johnson to raise awareness about HIV, seemingly ready to use his platform for good. For the first time in a long time, Tommy Morrison looked like he might actually grow up, but it didn't last.
So, this is where, now, again, want to keep this in mind. Grift, okay? Just keep that in mind. Now we're going to get weird.
I have just another question. I mean, I don't. Yeah. It's more rhetorical, but like, I'm surprised, given that he has the old high five, that any doctor will be okay with giving him the implants. Like, doesn't that put him at a higher risk for infection and shit?
He had to fly out of the country. Wow. Apparently, got him in Mexico.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense, because I was like that, because that's one of the things, right? Like, most people who get it, they get HIV, they die from like pneumonia and shit, don't they?
And they're easily susceptible to any kind of infection,
right?
Because of a wound.
Yeah.
Well, he was no exception.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just weeks later, he made a complete U-turn. He quit taking his medication after just 30 days. He called it medical propaganda, then launched into full-blown denial.
Oh, no.
And from there, the spiral became unstoppable. This wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was the start of what one insider called a deep and intractable pattern of denial.
Look how gaunt he is there.
What the fuck, bro?
And then you could see, those implants. Just, we'll get a better look at him, but he begins to deny that he has AIDS or HIV.
Shit.
A delusion that would define the rest of his life and ultimately end it. Soon, Morrison's denial wasn't just personal, it was public. He began claiming his original HIV test was false, insisting he had never actually contracted the virus despite multiple tests, and it didn't stop there. He started pushing dangerous conspiracy theories, claiming his diagnosis was orchestrated by a rival boxing promoter seeking to destroy his career, or even...
Yeah.
You know why I call bullshit on that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go. No, please.
Because the reason why, I'm telling you right now, that's bullshit. Because if that were true, if he would tell Don King, like, bro, I don't have this. You know how many more tests? Because if Tommy Gunn's getting 38, 39 million bucks, how much would he be getting? So Don King ain't gonna fuck up his bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he believed for like 1 second that this dude didn't have the HIV, he would definitely get more blood tests done. So like that alone, like, greed brings out the truth, or truth brings out greed, whichever way you want to put it.
You're right. The issue there, though, is that time has passed, and like I'm gonna guess this is like not long after. Wait, no. So he went to prison already, and then so a couple of years have passed since this. I'm gonna guess that the situation was that he started getting these ideas in his head, but people aren't returning his calls, So just the timeline is that, a few years pass, he's already been to jail, did some time, and then he starts getting these ideas, and he probably tried to call up Don King and be like, hey man, I want to let you know, I don't think I ever had AIDS. And Don King was like, thanks, Tommy. Hope you're doing well. Take care.
Did he think he served his time with the AIDS and it got rid of him too, or the HIV? Sorry, not AIDS, but like prison.
This was. I mean, you got to think about this. Was such a hot potato. Don King wouldn't touch it. It was a combustible bomb that Don King was like, "Hey man, I ain't gonna deal with that shit."
Yeah. When Don King says, "No, I'm good," like that's
you gotta do some self inventory.
Yeah, he should be a truck driver, like the one announcer said 20 minutes ago.
There you go. Keep that dirty dick out of the world.
Seriously, man.
Even by government agencies working against him.
Oh yeah, government agencies. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. As soon as you start relying on the conspiracy theory angle, you lose all credibility. Credibility.
You know who he needed in his life? Joshua Fabia. Imagine if those two linked up.
Man.
Not for nothing, but for the insanity alone, I would have loved if those two linked up.
I'm gonna write a script.
Make fan fiction. Like, imagine the gold we could have got out of those two linked together.
Wow.
Like the what ifs are gonna keep me up at night. But imagine that fucking buddy cop movie.
God, Joshua Fabia, like baptizing Tommy Morrison.
Yeah.
Oh man, God, that is funny.
Wow.
And he's not. And Tommy Morrison having AIDS isn't doing himself any favors with that one nipple ring.
His longtime promoter,
what happened
Tony
was they
Hol-
did the one nipple ring. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I got hips. Like, oh shit, we're not doing the second one.
Yeah, get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out of here. You only get one doorbell, mister.
And by the way, can you see who that person is on the right, opposite Tommy Morrison? That was a pre-plastic surgery Mickey Rourke.
Is that him, really?
Yeah. Guy used to be handsome.
No, I remember he was a good-looking guy. I just didn't recognize.
Fucked his face up.
Yeah, bro.
Holden watched the spiral firsthand. He said Morrison became obsessed with fringe internet forums, buried in pseudoscience and paranoia. The more he searched, the deeper he fell. And denial came with a cost. The diagnosis didn't just strip him of his career, it ripped away the structure that had kept him afloat. The gym, the training camps, the discipline. Without boxing, Tommy Morrison had no anchor.
And I gotta say, this guy's a piece of shit. But that doesn't keep me from feeling sympathy for him, because if he would have had another identifiable skill, he might have gotten a job, but he didn't have that. He literally had nothing, to rely on. He couldn't be a welder or a a truck driver or a mailman. Like, he literally had nothing. And that is sad. But this goes into the question of this episode was, is he a grifter? I don't know, because it sounds like he went crazy and he might have been desperate because he thought seeing his mortality, so potentially close, he might not have been just dealing with a full deck,
That's right, it sucks.